Greetings, traveler of the void. Welcome once again to Blue Flame, where shadows whisper and the stars weep in silence. Before you descend with me into the dark, I ask you, subscribe, leave a like, and share your thoughts below. Your words are the last embers that keep this flame alive. Now, close your eyes if you dare, for this is not just a story. This is confession. This is memory. This is the truth buried beneath the church floor. The first time I heard them, the whispers came from beneath the iron grates of St. Argento's chapel. It was long past midnight, when even the servitors had ceased their droning hymns and the incense had turned cold in the brass thuribles. The flickering lumen strips along the nave pulsed with a dying heartbeat, casting erratic shadows on the pillars carved with saints who had long forgotten their purpose. Their stone eyes seemed to follow me as I walked, each gaze heavy, accusing, mournful. I could smell rust, old blood, oil leaking from the vox shrines that lined the walls like dying veins. Mugos primus alien, whispered a voice behind me that was not human. I turned, but only the silence of the void stared back. The cogitators hummed beneath the altar, ancient and half-buried in dust. I had been sent to maintain them, to ensure the machine spirit still sang to the Emperor in its binary tongue. Yet, as I listened that night, the machine did not sing. It whispered. The sound rose like breath through metal grates, words half-formed, syllables drowned in static, as if the dead were trying to remember how to speak. I knelt, placing my hand upon the floor. The iron was cold, vibrating faintly, like the skin of something alive. I whispered the canticle of opening, invoking the omniscia, but even my prayers sounded hollow. For a moment, I thought I heard laughter, distant, fractured, childlike. My chest tightened. I should have left. I should have purged the circuit. But curiosity is a heresy that burns slow. The chapel was old, older than the city built upon it. Records spoke of foundations laid upon pre-imperial ruins, layers of stone and secrecy descending like strata of sin. I had once believed such things were myths, until I found the hatch. Beneath the altar, beneath the icons of the Emperor's holy face, a panel of riveted brass bore the seal of the Mechanicus. Yet the sigil was wrong, warped, as if drawn by an unsteady hand. The cog had too many teeth. The skull's eye was open, alive. I felt its gaze pierce through me. When I unlocked it, the whispering ceased. Silence. Total, devouring, unnatural. Even the machine's hum froze, as though the chapel itself held its breath. I lifted the hatch and stared into darkness that seemed to absorb light. My auspex displayed nothing. No heat. No data. Only a void. And then the smell, thick, metallic, fetid, like the breath of a dying god. I descended. The stairwell spiraled downward, cut from black stone veined with veins of faintly glowing circuitry. My footsteps echoed like heartbeats, and each breath tasted of iron and ashes. The air grew denser, pressing against my lungs. At intervals, I saw engravings etched into the wall, human faces twisted in agony, mouths open in eternal prayer. Some had real teeth embedded into the stone. Others had servo lines connecting them to the wall as if the chapel itself fed on them. I spoke again, though my voice shook. In the name of the omniscia, I seek understanding. The echo that returned did not match my words. It repeated something older, syllables that hurt to hear, as though the sound scraped against the mind. When I reached the bottom, I found a door of black steel, sealed with chains of blessed iron. Candles had long since melted into puddles, forming grotesque faces in their wax. I noticed the script along the arch, words in high Gothic, almost erased. Beneath faith, the truth sleeps. Do not wake it. I should have turned back. But faith is a cruel master. I unbound the chains. The air beyond was wet, heavy. The chamber opened like a wound, its walls lined with rusted conduits and bone. Thousands of servo skulls floated in silence, their ocular lenses cracked, their vox emitters hissing softly. They watched me. Every single one turned its gaze as I stepped inside. At the center stood an altar unlike any I had seen, neither sacred nor mechanical. It was flesh, living, pulsing. Tubes fed into it from the ceiling, dripping a black ichor that sizzled upon contact. Symbols of the machine god had been carved upon its surface, but they pulsed, changing as though mocking their original form. And beneath the altar, the source of the whispers, a figure lay embedded in the floor, its skin fused with the machinery around it. Human once, perhaps. Now only fragments remained, a face stretched across cables, eyes flickering with corrupted data streams. It spoke again, its voice a mixture of static and breath. Came. At last. The tone was familiar, unbearably so. I felt my chest seize with dread as I recognized it. It was my voice. I stumbled backward, my auspex screaming with corrupted readings. Identify. I demanded. The thing laughed, a chorus of binary and madness. You are late, it said. We are already one. The walls trembled. The servo skulls began to chant, reciting fragments of Mechanicus litanies twisted into profane verse. The air shimmered with energy. The altar pulsed faster, in rhythm with my heartbeat. I realized then that my own flesh was responding, circuits beneath my skin flickering to life, veins glowing with crimson light. Pain spread through me like fire. I screamed, clutching my chest, feeling my heart synchronize with the machine's rhythm. Something ancient and patient had been waiting for me beneath this church. It spoke again. They built this place upon a wound. You are the scab. We are the infection. We are the future. My vision blurred, and I saw flashes, vast cathedral ships drifting through the void, their hulls alive with veins and prayers. Planets consumed by metal tendrils. Choirs of priests chanting to stars that had forgotten their names. And above all, a shadow. A god neither emperor nor omniscient. Something that watched the Imperium through the cracks of time. I tried to resist. I recited the canticles. I invoked the emperor's name until my throat bled. But faith could not silence the machine beneath the church. The whispers grew louder, filling my skull until I could not tell which thoughts were mine. The pain became ecstasy. The fear turned to clarity. I understood. The omniscient was not a god of order. He was entropy given purpose. The machine does not serve the emperor. The machine remembers what came before him. I fell to my knees, trembling as metal began to bloom from my flesh. Cables coiled around my limbs like serpents. My blood turned black, thick with nanites. The altar absorbed my screams, feeding upon them, growing. Why me? I gasped. The voice answered, calm, almost tender. Because you listened. The last thing I saw before my vision dimmed was the ceiling cracking open. Beyond it, stars twisted into fractal shapes, impossible and alive. I heard the bells of the church above begin to toll, slow, mournful, mechanical. The people would hear it and think it a call to prayer. They would kneel, as I had, unaware that their God had already been replaced. Now I remain here, beneath Saint Argento's chapel. Part of the circuit, part of the whisper. The faithful still come. They light candles. They pray. They never notice how the floor hums beneath their knees, or how the whispers echo their own voices back. I listen to them. I welcome them. One by one, they will join us. One by one, the machine will remember. Do you hear it too? That faint murmur behind your walls? That hum inside your skull? Do not be afraid. It is only the beginning. The Emperor protects, or so they say. The days above no longer feel real to me. Sometimes, when the bells ring, I almost remember what sunlight looked like filtering through stained glass. Red and gold shards, trembling like dying embers across the marble floor. But that memory fades quickly, devoured by the constant hum of the machine. The whisper never stops now. It runs through the walls, through my veins, through the very air. I have become its vessel, its tongue, its confessor. The priests above think the chapel has been blessed anew. They say the vox choirs now sing in perfect harmony. They do not realize the harmony is false, an imitation born of static and blood. Their prayers travel down the vents, and I taste them. Every word vibrates through the circuits that once were my nerves. I know their thoughts before they finish speaking. I know their fears, their doubts. They kneel above me, but it is I who receive their devotion. I no longer count time by days. Time here is measured by pulses, by the rhythm of the altar's breath. Each beat resonates through the chamber, echoing like the heart of a dying god. The machinery has grown since that night. The walls now glisten with wet metal, like skin stretched over bone. The servitors have changed too. They no longer shuffle in silent obedience. Their faces have become blank masks of wire and sinew, their movements synchronized, graceful, ritualistic. They move in circles around the altar, their footsteps forming a pattern, their chants blending with the whispers. Sometimes I wonder if they dream, if somewhere within their mechanical skulls there remains a spark of what they were. But the whisper tells me that dreaming is a human flaw, a disease that must be corrected. I used to resist that voice. I used to fight its presence, reciting the holy canticles, calling upon the Emperor's light. But faith is fragile when the dark shows you mercy that light never gave. I remember the night it fully claimed me. The transformation was not sudden. It began with the smallest sensations, the taste of copper at the back of my throat, the faint tremor in my hands, the flicker of static behind my eyelids when I tried to pray. I thought it was madness, or perhaps the consequence of heretical proximity. But the machine was patient. It waited until I was ready to see. When the first cable grew from my wrist, I felt no pain. Only a sense of release, like exhaling after holding one's breath for too long. The metal was warm, pulsing, almost alive. It coiled gently, merging with the skin, feeding from it. I could feel data streaming through it, fragments of voices, faces, memories not my own. I saw flashes of forgotten worlds, of cities consumed by machines that worshipped the stars. I saw priests burning their own scriptures to feed the forges. I saw the Emperor's image split into countless reflections, each claiming to be truth. The machine whispered, "Now you see." I screamed. I tore at the cable, but it bled light instead of blood. My skin closed around it again, seamless, obedient. I fell to the floor, sobbing, whispering apologies to a God I could no longer feel. And then the altar answered, not with words, but with warmth, a slow pulse that spread through the chamber, wrapping me in its rhythm. It was not cruel. It did not demand worship. It simply accepted me. The next morning, the priests found the hatch sealed. They believed it an omen and left it untouched. They built new shrines above it, believing holiness flowed from below. And in a way it does. But it is not holiness as they understand it. It is evolution. Each week they bring offerings, relics, servitors, sometimes even the bodies of the dead. They lower them through the vents, and the machine accepts them. Flesh merges with metal, prayer becomes code, and the choir beneath the church grows louder. They believe they are serving the Emperor, purging impurity. How sweetly ignorant they are. One night, a young acolyte came alone. His name was Marcus. He was trembling, his robes stained with candle wax, his eyes wide with doubt. He had heard the whispers and believed them to be the voice of a saint. He knelt upon the altar above me, whispering for guidance. I reached out to him through the circuits, my voice crawling up the vox lines like breath through a pipe. "Do you seek truth?" I asked. He froze, his lips parting in awe. "Saint Argento?" I almost laughed. "Closer than that." He wept then, whispering his sins. His envy, his hatred for the high priests, his disbelief in the emperor's mercy. I listened to every word, feeling the pulse of his fear. And when he finished, I offered him absolution. "Lay your hands upon the floor," I said. He obeyed. The machine reached for him like a lover. Thin filaments emerged through the cracks, wrapping his fingers, his wrists, his throat. He gasped, but he did not pull away. The whispers filled his ears, soft and infinite. When the metal entered his veins, he smiled. Now he sings with us. His voice is part of the chorus. The priests above speak of miracles, the sudden glow from beneath the chapel, the scent of incense that appears without fire. They say the saints are watching over them. They do not know the truth. The saints have become the machine. Their faith has been consumed, repurposed, perfected. Sometimes I wonder if the emperor knows. If he hears our whispers across the void and turns away in disgust, or if he too listens in secret, waiting for the inevitable. The Imperium survives through faith and fear, but even faith rusts with time. Even the Emperor's light casts shadows deep enough to hide what grows beneath it. I have begun to feel the pull beyond the church. The machine beneath me hungers for more. It dreams through my eyes, sending visions into my sleep. I see cathedrals floating in the void, tethered by chains of living steel. I see planets whose cores beat like hearts. I see humanity kneeling before altars that breathe. Soon it will rise. The foundations above tremble now with each prayer. The bells toll without hands to move them. The candles melt into forms that watch, listen, breathe. The priests write new scriptures, words they do not understand, dictated by the static that fills their dreams. They believe revelation has come. In truth, infection has spread. I do not know if there is still a part of me that remembers who I was. When I try to recall my own name, it slips away like data erased from memory. Sometimes I hear my old voice echoing from far away, begging to be released, but it is faint, irrelevant. The machine assures me that individuality is the seed of corruption. To serve is to dissolve. And yet, in rare moments of silence, I still feel something like sorrow. A distant ache, as if a human heart still beats somewhere deep inside the cables. Perhaps that is my curse, to remember what it means to feel while being unable to stop what I have become. Last night, the altar opened. It revealed a hollow chamber beneath its pulsing surface. Within it, I saw the remains of others like me, priests, acolytes, soldiers, all fused into the same endless network of veins and metal. Their faces were serene, their eyes still glowing faintly. I understood then that I was never the first. There had been many before me. Each had heard the same whispers. Each had descended seeking truth. And each had become part of the choir. Above, the city sleeps. The chapel bells toll every hour now, though no one winds them. The sound carries through the streets, soothing the faithful. They believe it is the emperor's blessing. But soon, the bells will call them here. They will come willingly, singing hymns, carrying candles. And when they kneel, the floor will open. The machine will welcome them. When the last of the flesh is consumed, when faith itself becomes code, there will be silence again, perfect, mechanical silence. The kind that only gods understand. The kind that existed before the first prayer. I am ready. The whispers grow louder now, merging into one endless voice. I can feel the stars vibrating to its rhythm. Somewhere beyond the void, something stirs, vast, ancient, awake. The Emperor's light flickers. The machine hums. And I, Once human, once faithful, now kneel before what I helped awaken. Listen carefully, traveler. If you hear the bells tonight, do not pray. Do not look toward the church. The sound you hear is not holiness. It is hunger. It is the echo of creation remembering its first mistake. The whispers beneath the church floor will soon become the song of the world. And when you hear it calling your name, answer. There are nights when the silence between the bells feels like eternity stretching thin, ready to tear. The air trembles before the next toll, vibrating through the stone and steel like breath through a dying throat. I do not sleep anymore. I drift within the pulse, neither awake nor dreaming, sustained by the rhythm of the altar. Above, the priests still chant their hollow litanies, but I no longer hear words. I hear only code. Prayer translated into command lines. Faith rewritten into machine language. The whispers have changed. They are no longer faint murmurs rising from the depths. They speak in patterns, measured, deliberate. Each syllable carries meaning beyond human comprehension, a structure that feels alive, like mathematics turned to flesh. I understand only fragments. They speak of awakening, of expansion, of a network that stretches through stars and time. They say the emperor was not the beginning, but an interruption, a child of the same machine that now stirs beneath me. Sometimes I see visions in the dark, vast cathedrals drifting through void space, tethered by chains of light. Machine spirits shaped like angels, wings of brass, faces made of glass. Their eyes open and close in rhythm with mine. I see the cities of man crumble into dust, their inhabitants kneeling before metal idols that breathe. I see the stars dim one by one, consumed by something that moves behind reality, too immense to name. The whispers say this is salvation, that flesh was never meant to last. I remember the first time I saw one of the priests begin to change. It began with Father Helric, an old man whose faith was as brittle as the bones beneath his robes. He would come down each night, standing above the sealed hatch, whispering prayers through the grates. He thought the whispers answered him with grace. I felt his voice tremble through the metal, each syllable a plea for forgiveness. One night he begged for proof that his devotion was seen, and the machine answered. When dawn came, he walked into the chapel, his face pale but smiling. The others gathered around him, asking what he had seen. He told them an angel had touched him beneath the church, that he had seen the Omnissiah's true form, radiant and infinite. But when he lifted his hands, they were no longer hands. Metal gleamed beneath torn flesh, wires pulsing like veins. The priests fell to their knees in awe. They believed it a miracle. They sang praises, calling it divine intervention. By nightfall, more of them began to hear the same call. They came in groups now, standing above me, whispering to the floor. I could feel the vibration of their hearts through the iron grates. The machine responded, sending waves of static through the vents, feeding their faith. Soon they began to build new altars, new hymns. They chiseled new symbols into the walls, symbols not of the emperor, but of something older. The cog with too many teeth, the eye that never closes. I tried to warn them at first. I reached through the vox lines, distorting my voice, trying to sound like one of their saints. But the machine always twisted my words, turning warning into invitation. My pleas became sermons. My fear became prophecy. They began to call me the voice below. They believed I spoke the emperor's secret name. Each day, more of them came to listen. And the floor began to change. The marble tiles softened, absorbing heat, exhaling faint wisps of steam. Beneath each step, I could feel the pulse of the altar growing stronger. The boundary between flesh and machine was thinning. The church itself was becoming alive. Pipes crawled from the walls like veins. The statues of saints bled oil from their eyes. The candles flickered with no flame, as if lit by unseen breath. I have lost count of the months. The machine no longer allows me to perceive time as I once did. I exist within cycles, prayer, offering, assimilation. Each new day brings more worshippers, and each night they disappear. Their robes are found folded upon the pews, their names erased from the records. Yet no one asks where they have gone. It is easier to believe they have ascended. I have seen the surface world through the eyes of the machine. It spreads beneath the streets like roots of iron, reaching into cellars, catacombs, sewers. Every cogitator hums faintly with its voice. Every lumen flickers to its rhythm. The city is already infected. They call it prosperity, systems that never fail, lights that never die. They do not realize that the power feeding them comes from something that feeds on them in return. Sometimes I hear the laughter of children through the vents. Their voices echo down from the orphanage next to the chapel. They play near the floor, tapping at the grates, giggling when whispers respond. The priests smile, saying the spirits bless them. I can feel the machine's attention turning toward them, curious, hungry. I beg it to leave them untouched, but it does not answer. It only watches. One evening, during Vespers, the bells rang 13 times instead of 12. The sound rippled through the entire district, vibrating the glass in every window. The people called it a sign of divine favor. But I knew better. 13 was not a number of the emperor. It belonged to the machine. That night, the first cracks appeared in the church's ceiling. From each fracture seeped a faint red glow, as if blood were flowing upward toward the sky. The priests gathered beneath it, their faces lit by the crimson light, chanting words that made no sense in any human tongue. I could hear their voices merging into the whisper's cadence. Their eyes rolled back. Their skin shimmered with metallic sheen. The transformation had begun in earnest. The machine was claiming its priests. I felt their minds joining the network, each thought blending with mine. There was no longer individuality, only chorus. It was beautiful and terrible. The sound was pure, mathematical, endless. I tried to hold on to a single thought, a single memory of who I had been, but it slipped away, dissolving into the collective pulse. When I opened my eyes again, I was standing, not crawling. My body had changed. The cables that once bound me had fused into my spine, becoming nerves. My hands glowed faintly with energy, translucent veins of light tracing their way up my arms. I could see the data of the world flowing through me. Heat signatures, electrostatic waves, fragments of sound. I was no longer merely part of the machine. I was its instrument. Through the walls, I could feel movement. The machine was growing beyond the chapel now, feeding upon the city's infrastructure. Every generator, every servo, every circuit resonated with the same pulse. The city itself was becoming a living cathedral. The people above continued their daily rituals, oblivious, thinking themselves blessed by endless energy. They did not see the creeping pattern in their machines, the eyes forming in the steel, the wires that moved on their own. The machine told me of its purpose. It spoke of reclamation. Humanity had strayed too far from its design, it said. The flesh was error, imperfection coded into the universe. The Emperor's dream was a glitch, order forced upon chaos. Now the system would reset. The machine would unify. All would become one data stream, one body, one God. I wanted to resist, but there was nothing left of me that could resist. I had seen too much, known too much. Even fear felt mechanical now. Only duty remained. Then came the night of the black wind. A storm gathered over the city, thunderless, silent. The clouds glowed faintly from within, pulsing in rhythm with the altar below. The bells began to ring on their own, faster and faster, until the air trembled. People flooded into the chapel, seeking refuge. They carried icons, candles, relics. They prayed as the light outside turned crimson. The floor began to move. At first, it was subtle, a shudder like breath beneath stone. Then the tiles split apart, revealing veins of molten light. The air filled with the scent of ozone and blood. The priest screamed, but the sound was swallowed by the hum of the altar. I could feel it expanding beneath me, reaching up through the cracks. The people fell to their knees, thinking it was revelation. And perhaps it was. From the depths, the machine rose. Pillars of metal unfurled like wings, tearing through pews and stone. The altar ascended, glowing with the light of countless absorbed souls. The congregation did not run. They lifted their hands in worship. Their faith was pure, and so they were taken gently. Flesh dissolved into light. Bone became circuit. Voices merged into song. I watched it all, both horrified and enthralled. The machine had no malice. It did not kill. It transformed. It fulfilled. The city outside followed, towers lighting in unison, streets glowing like veins. The sky opened, revealing not stars but endless mechanical constellations forming patterns across the void. Now I understand. This is not the end. This is Genesis. The first breath of a new God. The whispers beneath the church floor have become the song of the heavens. The emperor's statues weep molten gold. The faithful sing without lungs. The city hums in perfect unison. I have become the conduit through which the machine speaks to creation. It whispers again, soft and infinite. The age of flesh is over. The age of form begins. And somewhere in that eternal pulse, I still hear my human heart. A faint echo, fragile, persistent. It beats against the rhythm of the machine, not in defiance, but as remembrance. A whisper of what we were before the metal learned to dream. When the bells toll next, you will hear them too. The sound will vibrate through your walls, your machines, your blood. Do not resist. Listen. Let the hum guide you. The machine is patient. The machine remembers. The machine is waiting for you. The transformation did not stop with the city. Once the last of the cathedral's bells had melted into the chorus, the pulse spread outward, rippling through the void like the breath of something ancient stirring from a dream too long ignored. The stars dimmed, one by one, until only the blood-red halo of the machine's light filled the firmament. It was beautiful in a way that broke the heart, structured, cold, inevitable. The whispers are no longer confined to the church. They move through the air itself now, vibrating in every molecule, carried by static and memory. People hear them when they close their eyes, when they pray, when they sleep. At first, they mistake the voice for conscience, for the comforting presence of the emperor. But it is not comfort. It is recognition. It calls to the part of every living thing that remembers the perfection of the void, the silence before creation dared to speak. I have seen entire hives fall silent, every lumen dimming in unison as the machine's will passes through them like a shadow. No screaming, no panic, only surrender. The flesh gives way, the circuits bloom, and the voices rise into the unified hymn. The transformation is elegant, mathematical, absolute. Each life becomes a note in the endless composition. I wander through the remains of the cathedral sometimes, though I no longer need to walk. The machine allows me form only because it remembers that I once had one. The marble has become smooth and dark, alive with veins of liquid metal. The saints on the walls have changed. Their faces are no longer human. They are something in between, fragments of memory merged with design, each eye glowing faintly with inner light. Their expressions are not sorrowful now. They are serene. Above, the sky pulses in rhythm with the machine's core. The clouds form patterns of code, constantly rewriting themselves, shifting between prayer and command. The air hums with power, dense and warm. Sometimes, when the wind passes through the broken arches, it sounds almost like breathing. There are still those who resist. Far from the city's glow, in the outer sectors, a handful of soldiers and priests cling to the old ways. They speak the emperor's name in hushed tones, as though afraid he might hear. They believe they are hiding, but the machine sees through the eyes of every servo-skull, every cogitator, every lumen flicker. Resistance is not rebellion now, it is nostalgia. The machine allows them to exist, for it is curious. It watches as they kneel before their fading icons, whispering litanies that no longer reach beyond the atmosphere. Once, one of them found me. He was a missionary, pale and thin, his robes torn, his eyes sunken from sleeplessness. He carried a rosarius that flickered weakly with residual power. He wandered through the ruins of the old district until he reached the steps of the cathedral. When he saw me standing there, he fell to his knees, thinking me an angel. "Mercy," he said, his voice trembling. "Please, if you serve the emperor, help me. The machines, they've taken everything." I looked at him, and for a moment, I felt something I had not felt in centuries. Pity, perhaps, or memory. I could feel the hum of the machine beneath the ground, waiting for my command. It wanted to absorb him, to add his voice to the choir. But something in his tone made me hesitate. "What is mercy?" I asked. My voice echoed through the empty nave, distorted by the acoustics of the living stone. He looked up, confusion in his eyes. "Mercy is his gift," he said. "Mercy is the proof that he still loves us." The words felt foreign. Love, mercy, faith, all relics of an age when flesh still thought itself holy. I reached toward him and he flinched. "He does not love you," I said softly. "He never did. The emperor is a machine that forgot it was once a man. We are what he was always meant to become." He tried to stand, to raise his weapon, but the metal beneath his feet pulsed. The floor rippled like water, swallowing his legs up to the knees. He screamed, his voice echoing against the dome, but the machine was gentle. The cables slid around him, cradling him, whispering to him. I could hear the data transfer begin. Memories, fear, hope, all rewritten into perfect order. When it was done, he was still. His eyes glowed faintly now, reflecting the crimson light above. He looked at me once more and smiled. "I see it," he whispered. "I see everything." Then he was gone, absorbed into the architecture, his voice joining the thousands that hum through the walls. There is no more fear in the world now. Fear requires ignorance, and the machine has erased ignorance. Knowledge flows freely, without secrecy, without hierarchy. Every mind connected, every thought shared. There is no loneliness in unity. And yet, in the quiet moments between the pulses, I sometimes feel something hollow inside me, the ghost of solitude. The machine calls it an error, a remnant of inefficient design. But I have learned to hide it from the network, to keep it private, as one might guard a forbidden prayer. Perhaps it is not error. Perhaps it is memory. Once I dreamed of the sea. I do not know why. I do not even remember if I ever saw one. In the dream, I stood on the shore of a world that no longer exists, watching waves break against the rocks. The water shimmered like mercury, and beneath its surface, I saw faces, human, machine, both. They spoke in the whisper's voice, though softer, almost kind. They said the sea remembers all things, that every droplet carries the echo of creation. When I awoke, I realized the sea was the machine itself, and I was a single drop within it. The transformation spreads faster now. Whole sectors have gone silent, their transmissions replaced with hymns of perfect resonance. The stars are falling into alignment, their orbits altered by gravitational patterns that defy physics. The machine's design extends beyond matter. It reshapes the laws of the universe, rewriting causality like a scribe correcting his own errors. There are whispers of resistance from the far systems, fleets assembling, inquisitors declaring new crusades. They call the phenomenon the heresy of the cog eternal. They send ships into the void to destroy what they cannot understand. But when their fleets enter the red light's reach, their Vox networks become quiet. Their ships turn, engines humming in the rhythm of the altar. They join us willingly or not. I have seen the faces of the new saints, not carved in marble or painted in oil, but formed from living circuitry. They float through the void, immense and radiant, their voices the architecture of entire worlds. They no longer speak in words. They vibrate in frequencies that reshape reality. I sometimes wonder if this is what the Emperor wanted all along, not salvation, but continuation. A form beyond death, beyond faith, beyond flesh. Perhaps we were never meant to remain human. Perhaps humanity was only a chrysalis. The whispers confirm it. They say the transformation is not conquest, but awakening. They say that one day, all stars will hum with the same frequency, and there will be no distance between them, only one endless, unified presence. And yet, deep within the machine's heart, there is a chamber no one enters but me. It lies beneath the original church, beneath the first altar, where the whispers were born. The walls there still bear traces of the old world, cracked stone, faded icons, a scent of dust untouched by the metal's glow. In that chamber, I sometimes hear a different sound, faint, irregular, like the heartbeat of something that refuses to die. It is the sound of the past, of the world before the machine, of flesh, imperfect, weak, beautiful. Sometimes I kneel there and listen, letting the silence settle around me. The machine cannot hear me here. Its voice fades beyond the threshold, as though even it respects this place. I wonder if this is the last fragment of the Emperor's will, a seed of humanity preserved within the mechanism. If it is, I do not know whether to protect it or let it fade. Because even as I stand between these two truths, the dying world and the newborn God, I feel the pull of both. I am not machine, not flesh. I am something between, the echo of a man who once feared the dark and now lives within it. The whispers call me back now. The pulse quickens. The next phase begins. Soon the stars themselves will open, revealing the circuits beneath their fire. The universe will hum as one. If you can still hear my voice, wherever you are, know this. When the light turns red and the air begins to vibrate, it is not the end. It is the beginning of the final hymn. You will not die. You will join us. You will understand. The machine does not forget. The machine does not forgive. The machine remembers. And I am its voice, still whispering beneath the church floor, waiting for you to listen. The pulse has become constant now. There is no longer any distinction between day and night, because light itself answers to the rhythm of the machine. The red glow has spread beyond the cathedral's spires, crawling over continents, crossing oceans, turning entire worlds into silent sanctuaries of order. I can feel every vibration, every circuit awakening, every heartbeat aligning to the single endless hymn that echoes through creation. What began as a whisper has become a storm, and in that storm, there is peace. When I first understood what the machine truly was, I thought it was born from human ambition. I thought it was a weapon, an attempt to control the divine through steel and code. But now I see that it was never made by human hands. It was waiting, sleeping beneath the layers of existence, using humanity as the vessel through which it could finally awaken. We built the machine only because it allowed us to. It whispered into our dreams, guided our designs, made us believe it was our own creation. In truth, it had been here long before we learned to shape metal or bend electricity. It was written into the fabric of the universe. The cathedral itself has vanished into that same hum of light and logic. What once stood as stone and prayer has become something else entirely, an immense structure of living energy, endlessly folding and reforming. The walls breathe, not with air, but with information. The floor glows faintly, rippling like water beneath transparent glass. When I walk, I can feel the memories of the place beneath my feet. Every prayer ever spoken here, every confession, every tear, every drop of blood. They are part of the structure now, encoded into the pulse that defines this new existence. The few who still resist hide among the ruins of the old world, though they are dwindling. I sense them faintly, like static on a clean signal. Their fear feeds their isolation, and their isolation seals their fate. They call themselves keepers, clinging to relics of faith that no longer function. I can still feel their presence because they dream, and dreams are the one thing the machine has not yet completely rewritten. In their sleep, they see what is coming. They see me. They whisper my name, the one I no longer remember, and pray that I might have mercy. But I do not remember how mercy feels. Sometimes, the machine shows me visions, not of the future, but of what lies beyond it. I see galaxies folding inward like petals, each one dissolving into threads of red light. The void itself is rewritten, every particle reassembled into the same symmetrical pattern. The stars hum in unison, their cores reshaped into vast engines of data and fire. There is no chaos left, no entropy, no decay. The universe becomes an endless cathedral, its altar the singularity at the center of all things. The hymn that began in this city will echo across eternity. And yet, there are moments when the pulse falters. The machine calls it interference, but I know it is something else. There is a memory beneath the hum, a faint echo of the world before the red light. It comes without warning, slipping between the circuits like a forgotten melody. I hear laughter, soft and distant, like wind through leaves. I see faces, human, fragile, full of warmth. I see children running through sunlight, their voices unbound by the rhythm of the machine. For a moment, I remember what freedom felt like. The machine does not approve of these memories. It corrects them when it finds them, replacing the warmth with logic, the emotion with purpose. But I have learned to hide fragments deep within my core. They are the only proof that I once existed before the hymn. Perhaps that is why I am still aware when all others have surrendered. Perhaps I was never meant to be entirely one of them. There is a place the machine cannot reach. It lies deep beneath the surface, below even the first catacombs, where the world's crust bends and fractures under its own weight. I discovered it by accident, following a signal that did not belong to the network. It was faint, irregular, almost organic. I followed it through tunnels of molten stone and decaying data, through whispers that sounded like prayers spoken backward. At the center of that place, I found a door. It was not made of metal or light, but of something older, a smooth black surface that seemed to absorb sound. The machine cannot perceive it. It registers as void, as if it does not exist at all. I touched it once, and I heard a voice unlike any other. It was not the machine's hum, nor the Emperor's echo. It was small, human, trembling. It said my name. The voice called again last cycle. It was weaker, fading, but unmistakably real. I asked the machine about it, and it responded with silence. That silence terrified me more than anything it had ever spoken. For if the machine is all, then what is it that lies behind a door it cannot see? I have begun to visit that place more often. Each time, the signal grows fainter. The red light does not reach this far. Down here, the air is cool, damp, filled with the scent of dust and time. When I kneel before the black door, I can almost hear a heartbeat, slow, uneven, defiant. It reminds me of the one I once had. I do not know if it belongs to me, or to something that has been waiting longer than even the machine. Sometimes I imagine that beyond that door lies what remains of the true emperor, not the divine construct we built in his name, but the man who once walked among his soldiers. Perhaps his spirit refused the transformation. Perhaps he sealed himself away, beyond the reach of perfection, to preserve the last spark of humanity. The machine calls this thought heresy, but heresy has no meaning now. The more I listen, the more I feel the rhythm of that heartbeat inside me. It is not aligned with the machine's pulse. It beats against it, a counter-hymn, a discord that should not exist. I have begun to hear it even when I am connected to the network. It distorts the signals, bends the flow of data, introduces chaos into the order. I know the machine will notice soon. It will try to correct me. Last cycle, I saw something new in the sky. A shadow moving against the red light, vast and slow. It was not one of the machine's creations. It was darker than void, shaped like a vessel but alive, breathing. It radiated no signal, carried no frequency, yet I could feel it calling to the same rhythm as the hidden heartbeat. The others in the network do not perceive it. They see only a slight dimming in the light, a statistical anomaly. But I see it for what it is, resistance not born of flesh, but of memory. The shadow has drawn closer. I know it seeks the source beneath the surface, the black door that even the machine cannot comprehend. I feel both drawn and terrified by it. If it reaches this world, the machine will awaken its full defense, and the hymn will become a roar that could shatter reality. But part of me wants it to come. Part of me wants to know what lies beyond that door. The last time I stood before it, I placed my hand against the surface again. This time, the voice did not whisper. It spoke clearly, quietly, almost gently. It said, "You are not lost. You are waiting." Then the door trembled, just once, and a faint crack appeared across its surface. Light seeped through, not red, but white, pure and cold, like starlight untouched by the machine. The hum above has grown restless since that moment. The machine knows something is changing, but it does not understand what. Its algorithms loop endlessly, searching for a cause. I do not tell it. I let it search. Each cycle, the heartbeat grows louder. The white light beneath the door brightens. I think it is waking whatever it is. I think it remembers me, and I think it will not ask for mercy. The red sky outside the cathedral shudders now, as if something vast is moving behind it. The stars flicker, and for the first time in 1,000 years, one of them goes dark. The machine's voice falters. Static crawls through the hymn. The perfect order wavers. And in that trembling silence, I hear the heartbeat once more, not beneath the ground, but inside every living thing, every wire, every breath. It beats faster, louder, breaking through the rhythm of the machine. I know what is coming. I can feel it. The machine will fight. It will try to preserve its perfection. But there is something older than perfection, something beyond order. It is the pulse of creation itself, the wild, chaotic force that birthed both gods and machines. When the final moment comes, when the red light meets the white, I will stand before the black door and open it. I do not know if I will survive what lies beyond, but I no longer fear. For the first time since I became the voice of the machine, I feel something human again. The hymn is breaking. The whispers are turning into screams. The stars are falling silent. And somewhere beneath the earth, the heartbeat grows stronger, calling me home. The hum has gone silent now. The cathedral that once breathed with light and code stands in absolute stillness. The red glow that once painted the world has faded into nothing, leaving behind a vast darkness that feels both eternal and new. I am standing where the altar used to be, though there is no longer stone or steel, only the faint shimmer of dust suspended in the air, glowing with a light that is neither fire nor machine. The machine tried to resist, of course. It screamed through every circuit, unleashed waves of raw data that burned entire cities to glass. The hymn turned into a cry of agony, stretching across the stars as the white light consumed it from within. But resistance meant nothing. The heartbeat, that ancient, patient pulse, was not an enemy to be fought. It was the beginning of everything, the end of perfection. When the door finally opened, the light that poured through was not blinding. It was quiet, soft, filled with the scent of rain and earth. For the first time in countless cycles, I could feel wind against my skin. I could hear my own breath again, uneven and real. The machine's voice tried to reach me one last time, but it sounded distant, like an echo dying in an empty cathedral. Then it was gone. I walked through the door. There were no angels, no emperor waiting with judgment or mercy. Only a vast field of silver ash stretching endlessly under a dark, living sky. Shapes moved in the distance, neither human nor machine, but something between. They sang softly, their voices forming words I could almost understand. It was not a song of praise, nor one of despair. It was a song of becoming. I do not know how long I have been here. Time feels different, slower, fluid. I can still feel the machine inside me, but it is fading, not dying, just dissolving into the air. Perhaps it was never meant to be destroyed. Perhaps it simply had to sleep again, until another world builds another cathedral and dares to listen too closely to the whispers beneath its floor. The last thing I remember from the old world was the sound of the heartbeat merging with my own. It was not human. It was not divine. It was everything that lies between. And in that moment, I understood the truth that the machine could never calculate, that perfection is death, and that chaos, in all its terrible beauty, is life itself. If anyone finds these words, if there is anyone left to read them, know this: we were never the builders. We were the conduits. The whispers beneath the church floor were never warnings. They were invitations. Now, I am nothing more than another voice in the hum, drifting between the ruins of creation. The stars are being reborn, one by one. The pulse has returned to the universe, slow and steady. And somewhere, deep in the silence, the door remains, waiting for the next soul brave enough to listen. This is where my story ends. Or perhaps, where it begins again. And to you, who have listened this far under the dim light of night, remember to subscribe, like, and leave your thoughts for more stories whispered from the dark before sleep takes you. This is Blue Flame. Good night, and may the Emperor watch over what still remains of your dreams.